And there it is. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Accuracy in America, brought to you by Accuracy in Academia. I'm your host, Don Irvine, joined by my co-host, Brian McNichol.
Hello, deplorables, drags, despicables, chumps, Neanderthals, semi-fascist maggots, and dog-faced pony soldiers.
Okay, so I have to throw in, you added maggots. I have to throw in maggots now?
Yeah, maggots. That's us.
Okay, so did I miss maggots somewhere? Where did that come from?
That's I see that one on Twitter all the time.
Okay. All right, I'm just going to throw that in there.
It's a good one. It's like MAGA with a T at the end. Maggots.
Oh, okay, all right. So that's what they're doing.
You got to respell it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm thinking like maggots. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, who said that? All right. Okay. Well, we had a little snow the other day, yesterday, but quickly, I don't know. So I wake up in the morning and it's like raining, and I see the news says these school systems are on 2-hour delay, and I'm like, for rain? And then we got some wet snow, but I don't know. I mean, it still didn't seem necessary to do that, at least in Montgomery County. But there seems to be an abundance of caution when it comes to weather with the school systems.
Yeah, there's abundance of caution. That's a really nice way to put it. They have a new person making the calls now in Fairfax, and she's 1 for 4. Right, she's called it off 4 times, and 3 of the times it was only basically rain. So,
yeah. I mean, I don't recall, a period where you got this kind of rain. You had this wintry mix or whatever, and then they start doing this. This has been developing over the last few years, but we didn't. This didn't exist many years ago. If you go back, say 5-10 years, I don't recall. Something like this would have created a 2-hour delay,
right,
at all.
That's right.
So I don't understand what these people are doing, but yeah, I'll be nice. Abundance of caution versus just complete incompetence.
I hear you.
All right, so today is one of the occurrences of where Valentine's Day and Ash Wednesday actually occur on the same day. You have gotten your ash, I can see, as you have faithfully done for a number of years. So it was, I thought, how often does this happen? Because the calendar, with leap year and everything like this, it's not like you can say, oh, like every, like 7 years or 6 years, it's going to be happening.
The priest said it's every 7 years,
right?
That it ends up on Valentine's Day.
Right.
I think I don't see how that can be, because it also, it's tied to when there's a full moon. Is the full moon the same time all the time? I don't know, right?
Yeah,
Easter is the first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox, right? And so then you just back it up 40 days, not counting the Sundays, to this Wednesday, and that's when that's when you start. So, but that's what he said in Mass today, that it's every 7 years it hits exactly on it. I feel bad. Like my son, his birthday is the 20th. He was actually, the day he was born was Mardi Gras. That's part of why he was named Marty. we were having trouble picking a name.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I think God's telling us, make him a Marty, right? And he said, if you know him, like everybody who knows him was like, yeah, he's a Marty.
It kind of works that way, right? I mean, yeah. I think, I look at our kids, and I'm like, yeah, I think we got it right.
Yeah. So like we give up the candy and stuff for Lent. So I see the little thumb. Yes, candy, give that up. So he, his birthday is, like candy and cake and stuff is out, right? So what we decided to do is, from now on, if his birthday is after Ash Wednesday, or then we're just going to say that your birthday is Mardi Gras, right? Because he was born on Mardi Gras, so that way he'll always get some kind of celebration from then on. Took us. Only he'll be 17, so we got right on that one.
Yeah,
get it out just in time.
Well, my curiosity got the best of me, so I looked up, kind of when Valentine's Day and Ash Wednesday coincide. So according to the internet, 2018 was the last time it happened, so that was 6 years ago. and the next one is 5 years,
Wow, so it's
2029.
even less. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, but but see, yeah, I don't know whether or not that's also factored in, because when you have a leap year, you've got an extra, got the extra, the whole, so the count. It's not like we have 30, 31 like the rest of them of the time, all the time. February, every 4 years you got the leap year, and that kind of, I think, throws things off a little bit.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, it's always interesting when things are based off of calendars, like you were just mentioning Easter. We just did this, lunar New Year's, Chinese New Year celebration with our missionaries, and I'll have to go back and read it, but it's a calendar, and so the date floats. It's based on when, certain factors of the moon or whatever, and then it's set. So this year it was Saturday, this on the 10th, and I don't even know, I don't know what it was last year. I think last year it was a few days earlier or whatever. So some of those holidays are a little bit more of a moving target, and you're like, okay, just
Right.
I just look at a calendar. So, okay, that's what it is this year. Fine. I don't try to do the math on that. It's way too much.
Yeah.
No. So yeah, I don't know. It's I didn't read the full article in the Journal this morning about Valentine's Day, but they were pointing out that there are a lot of single people in the world now, and so this is
basketball practice last night, and the girls, they're in the 6th grade, right? This team, and so they're still under the rules of elementary school. So they were talking about how if you give one person a Valentine, you have to give everyone a Valentine, right? They have all these rules to keep people from getting their feelings hurt. And the girls, is interesting. It's like I don't know what any of we never talk about politics or their parents or with their parents or them or anyone. I'm very militant about keeping the topic to basketball, right?
right.
And but they were all grousing about it, like our feelings won't get hurt if we don't get a Valentine, and it was funny listening to them, like this thing that adults have elaborately planned out to soften their little emotional blows. They're like, leave us alone, we got this, so that was interesting to me.
Yeah, I mean, what you and I both know. I mean, we're old enough. We've seen all these things in society, and it's like, it's really kind of ridiculous. I mean, I remember as a child, I probably pretty much gave out Valentines to everybody, right? And the expectation is that you probably get one back, or it's like being invited. It's like your birthday party. Yeah. You invite all your classmates or just some of them and whatever. But this is all part of the process of life, of a little bit of selection here and things like that. And if you're overly sensitive, yeah, you're going to get your feelings hurt. But I don't know that my feelings, I mean, now it's been a long, long time, been decades, but I don't know that my feelings were so hurt that they have affected me throughout the rest of my life.
Right, exactly. And the thing about it is like you're going to get excluded from stuff, and this is small scale, no consequences. So what if you don't get one more Valentine from little Jody who doesn't like you or whatever, but you got to start learning to ingest that, to receive rejection, and think about, what does that mean to me? Are they right? Am I right? Should I change? Am I being a jerk about stuff? And how do we do that if we protect people from their consequences all the time?
Right. I mean, and that's why, we have this whole, the DEI thing is really ridiculous. I mean, you have, and we've talked about the backlash against a lot of DEI kind of gone over the edge, and now, corporations and some schools have been pulling back on that, but, they have the office of belonging. Like, wait a minute. So you were enrolled in school, but you didn't belong before? I mean, at university, what exactly is this? And inclusion is like, does everybody want to be included? No, not everybody wants to be included, right? I mean, it's just, how far, does all of this go? Does it tell all the organizations on campus, you must invite everybody to every event? It's like if it was like the Hillel people, I mean, they're going to be forced to invite the Latter-day Saints and the Catholics or whatever, but they may not really want them there. It's like and vice versa. I mean, it just really is a slippery slope of where we've gone.
Right. We're losing sight of what we have is the freedom to associate with who we want.
Right.
Right. That's the whole thing about churches and all this stuff. Like, I can't make you do what I do. You can't make me that way. Like all our ideas get out, all our ideas get expressed. Right. So now you're telling people, you can't like some people better than others. That's nonsense. Or you're going against human nature. Right. So let human nature happen. Let people learn to deal with it.
Yeah.
Where people, I'm trying to remember because like this has happened over the course of our lifetimes, right? That the Valentine's police have emerged, right? So, were there thousands of suicides all over on February 16th as people, dealt with this rejection and just couldn't handle it anymore? I don't think so, right? I think people just said, I wish I'd have gotten one from little Jody, and, I'm going to have to work harder for little Jody's friendship.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, freedom of association is so important in our life to be able to kind of do that, to make that we make those choices. And, this whole idea, I mean, I used to think when I was younger, I thought, this whole notion of the thought police and things like that was kind of ridiculous, but it has become more prevalent. It's, it's
right here.
Right. Yeah. We're seeing it. Yeah. I do think on Valentine's Day, I have a young man, son of a friend of mine who used to live here in the area, and he's very vocal about Valentine's Day as we come up to that, because he's single. I guess he's in his 30s now, early 30s, I'm guessing, and so he has a very just kind of bad attitude towards it. And, and look, and I don't blame him in that sense, because he's lonely in that way. But on the other hand, I also know what he was like before they moved away as a young child, everything like this. And it's like, he was very much isolated himself in a lot of ways, his own thing. So he wasn't the kind of person that was going to be in a group and get along with a lot of people, and stuff like that. So it's easy to blame others for the situation, where sometimes you need to look at yourself a little bit. So how can I change myself and my attitude and do something and open myself up so that, more people like me, or at least we can have a group activity or whatever on Valentine's Day with other singles. And who knows, maybe sparks will fly with those people or something like that. But he's kind of now in this whole unfortunate, cycle of just kind of self-pity. And, I think that's what he's just going to be like that. He goes to work. He loves flying planes and stuff like that, and doing things like this. But boy, Valentine's Day is a real sore spot for him. I almost want to just block him on Valentine's Day so I don't have to see these posts, because it's like the same thing every single year. But as the Journal was pointing out in the brief part that I read article, is we have so many single people, whether or not they've never been married or whether or not they're divorced or whatever, that now a lot of the gifting is people buying gifts for themselves, and it's kind of underpinned the Valentine's gift giving industry, because people are buying for themselves, because you don't have as many couples buying gifts for each other, but the singles are buying gifts for themselves. So whatever works, right? I mean, we now have Galentine's events and stuff like that. So society has evolved or adjusted, trying to incorporate more people and things like that. And I'm like, whatever at this point in time.
And the thing about the cards is, like I used to have an assistant coach who was a highly ranked guy in the Navy, flag officer in the Navy, and he said he worked on these sensitive intelligence projects and stuff, and he said when they do these projects, right, they bring in a team of basically jerks to pick through your project and find all the things wrong with it, right? And that, and you're like, you don't like it, right? Because they're digging for things to be wrong. They're looking at this in the most negative possible light, right? But they make you, justify your stuff, and they make you think about ways to improve, right? And it's a useful exercise. So like when we would lose games and I'd be all mad, he would say, that's just input. You just got some input. That's all that happened, right? So you learn from that and you do better next time. So, we have to learn to accept input, and sometimes the input is not, we don't like it, right? We don't like being told, I don't like you enough to give you a Valentine, but it's one of the things that's part of life.
Well, that also tells me too that, where criticism can be very useful, but now we're kind of afraid to say things, or a lot of people are afraid to say things, criticize anybody for even small things, because they're afraid of the backlash that they'll get. They'll be ostracized, they'll be put in Facebook jail or something like that. Just crazy things like that. So there there's a censorship kind of thing that's now going on that shouldn't be happening. I mean, criticism, like I said, it can be helpful, it can be useful. Sometimes, there's definitely criticism that's over the top and is unnecessary.
Right. And if you're a deliverer of mean, of unjustly mean, negative, derisive input, right? Then the input you give will be received in that light. Or they complain about everything. Okay, maybe this time they have it right, but there's someone who complains about everything. You judge their complaint differently than you do someone who, because you have other people, like if they tell you something's wrong, they rarely talk bad about anything. So you're like, okay, if you say it's wrong, so the quality of the input, goes down if people are relentlessly negative.
Yep. Yep. All right. Well, now we move on to other more substantial news going on here. We have, this thing here. So this Intel Center, or whatever you want to call it, found underground under the UN offices that we were talking about, right? They're supposed to be for helping these refugees and things like this. And it's like, whoa, it's like, what can you say about, UNRWA, as well as Hamas and things like this? Is like, is Israel not right in going after all of this, at this point? I mean, this is ridiculous.
I think they're absolutely right. And I think that, the United States, we're what, a fifth of the budget of the UN, and we give them a place to live rent free and all that stuff. We need to say, you fix this thing. This is not about Arabs and Jews. This is about, here's a sovereign country that's a dues paying member of this organization. And our agencies are working to undermine them and assist people who are terrorists who are attacking them. Right. This is a no brainer. And if they won't do it, ratchet up sanctions. But yeah, I think it's absolutely the wrong thing to do for the UN.
Is there any way that operation, that underground operation, could have run without the cooperation of the UN officials that were people who are running the agency?
Somebody had to know. Somebody in a pretty high place had to know that this office was operating out of this. And I think they know, I don't think it's any secret that the UN is on the side of Hamas in this conflict. I'm not sure the people behind that really care that we know.
Yeah, it's just, but I thought it was pretty incredible if that yet more evidence of just exactly what Hamas is after and what they're doing and their intentions, and how much misinformation, disinformation is being foisted upon us, by the Squad and other, left-wingers out there and everything like that continue to try to change that narrative to they're innocent. But you just see mounting things. Plus, the stories from the hostages. I mean, Israel, rescuing those hostages was amazing. But the stories about what Hamas did to them and has done to others, it's like, exactly who are the brutal people here? This but it kind of just rankles me that we get these stories and it seems like it has very little effect, but all we need is Israel to bomb something, as they're going after Hamas, and it's like, oh no, more civilians killed, this is horrible, you've got to stop it now, and all of this. It's like,
well, here's the thing about it on that. Okay, first of all, no one has ever done this in a more surgical fashion than IDF is trying to do it now. It's unbelievable what they're going through to try to limit civilian casualties and so forth. It's a tightly packed area. There's only so much you can do. the other thing is the enemy is hiding amongst them, right? The enemy is using them as human shields. So it makes it increasingly difficult. The other thing is, this is not new. These people have been harassing the Israelis for decades, right? Rockets over the fence, when school lets out, so you can hopefully hit a kid, coming out of school. I mean, that kind of stuff for years and years. Okay. And so this is just this low level, sort of an annoyance war that they've had to put up with for years. And there's these shelters all over Israel, and everybody knows how to find the nearest shelter, because, you always need to know this, because at any given moment, these people can bomb you. Now they went over the line on October 7th, right? They mounted an all-out attack, right? They're backed by the worst people in the world, the Iranians, right? The Iranian regime right now is probably the worst, most, malintended regime out there right now. And, they're paying for all this to keep the attack on, keep the pressure on, keep the destruction on, keep the killing going. Okay. So, the Israel is doing as good as they can, but at this point, right, if you're still fighting them on behalf of Hamas, you got to go. You got to go. Your thing is done. And I have no like compunction about, they need to do what they need to do until the rubble bounces. Keep after.
I wish our voices were heard more than the other voices, but at this point, but I think Israel still has support, but it just seems that the way it's portrayed, the pressure is kind of getting to the Biden administration and others, and they're not as strong-willed on this as they were before.
Because they basically have no moral underpinnings of any kind anyway, right? So, that's the other thing about it, is like, so, we don't talk about this enough, is, okay, the left, they attack us over religion. Hey, your religion says you should do this, and yet you're over here doing this, right? You can't ever get them back, because they don't have any religion telling them to do anything, right? There's no pressure for, trying to, ascertain what is right or wrong in any given situation, and, try to do the right thing. There's no right thing, right? It's just whatever keeps you in power and helps your position at the expense of the other people. So, they're not going to be motivated by doing the right thing, right? That's only going to come from us. We're going to pay the political price when we don't measure up to it, but we are the ones who are for doing the right thing, and the left is not. And so when you have no ideals, right, then you're subject to getting blown around by the pressure of the moment. And the pressure was, the political zeitgeist in the country. I mean, it's still close to an 80% issue, right? 80% of the people favor Israel and oppose Hamas. But the people in Joe Biden's face and in his administration, right, and the people they actually talk to on a day-by-day basis, the math, that's not the math at all. It's probably closer to the other way around, 80% for the Hamas. So, you have people with no moral underpinning, no sense of right or wrong, then they can be for thugs who murder people. Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So, election time. I mean, we've had 264 days left to go. We had a special election in New York, NY3. This was the George Santos seat. And so Tom Suozzi faced up against Mazi Pilip and beat her. I'm not overly surprised at the end result of that. The GOP majority, it's now down by one there officially. So that's narrowed, and once again, making things even more precarious for the GOP for the remaining part of the term. But I don't know. I don't know that I think about this as much of a referendum on anything. I mean, they did get hit by a snowstorm. Did that hurt? Did that hurt? Pilip? I don't know. But
some of what I was hearing was that they were, the Republicans depend more on same day voting on election day, and so election day comes up as a bad day weather-wise, and that hurt her. That probably did have some effect, but it was like 15, 16 points.
Well, it wasn't that close. 54-46 was the one I saw.
Okay,
Yeah.
I saw like 58-41. So
Yeah. So
I don't
I
know if
don't.
I saw before or after you.
Yeah. I think the AP called it fairly quickly. Became pretty obvious early on that
Right.
she wasn't going to win.
She's
So
not MAGA, right? She was a
no.
Democrat till a few months ago, and so a lot of people. One of the things that MAGA is really suspicious of now is potential Mitt Romney, Susan Collins types, right? It was like it's one thing to get Republicans elected and then have them sit up there and vote against you, right? So they're trying to get it down to where we're supporting people as a party who will vote like the party wants them to vote.
So where does that leave Larry Hogan?
Well, I mean, Larry Hogan might get you to 51, right? So
Right.
uh, it's Maryland. What are you going to do? You're not going to get a MAGA candidate there, but you will be running all the committees and so forth. And he can be marginalized in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I do think that Hogan winds up kind of being in that whole, Susan Collins kind of area there, but the thing, here once again, we need to make sure that at least Republicans need to make sure they unify behind him and do what they can. Hogan is an electable candidate in
Yes.
Maryland.
Yep.
2 terms as governor, 77% favorable rating when he left. He was very popular with all segments, probably except for the MAGA segment in the end. But the MAGA segment's not huge in Maryland because the Republicans aren't huge in Maryland in general. So he knows how to do this, and it's been forever since Maryland had a Republican senator. I mean, I was talking the other night. We were just talking about old Mac Mathias and Jay Glenn Bell.
I was thinking.
Yeah, those guys. It's like, yeah, look, Mac Mathias and today's Republican Party. My goodness.
Yeah,
but Larry Hogan, I think, is much more middle of the road, willing to listen to conservative ideas and say Mathias would be in today's world.
Right. I think that I think he'll come to some kind of understanding with Trump too, because Trump wins, right? If they both win, Maryland is kind of a key state for the federal government for a lot of pretty obvious reasons, the geography and so forth. And I think that Trump will, him and Hogan will cooperate where they can. They'll have some deal. When I agree, I will help you, and when I don't, I will not hurt you as bad as I could. So
right, and the thing is that when Hogan made his announcement, I noticed one of the things that was happening was that David Trone, who's planning to run for Senate for that seat as well, his reaction was that a vote for Larry Hogan is a vote for Mitch McConnell. So they're already planning. They're concerned because it's the first credible candidate we've had in decades.
Right, and a lot of people in Maryland, you hear that comment and you're like, okay, if he's a vote for McConnell, I could live with that.
Yeah.
Vote for Trump, I don't want that, but I could live with that if it was Maryland. I mean, if it was McConnell.
Right, and that's the thing. I mean, this is where Hogan's stance with Trump can pay some big dividends for him. And I keep thinking about just the organization that he put together, before he ran for governor, and he already had a broad-based coalition of business people and things like that as he was doing his Change Maryland. So he's not starting from scratch. Obviously, having been the governor for 8 years, is a big boost to him, and so he's got name recognition. So here's this, moderate Republican, high name recognition, very popular governor. There are no radical conservative things that managed to get through during his administration. It would have been hard, and even on his executive orders, they were, it was not anything that was going to rock the boat. So he's got a record where liberals are going to have a hard time attacking him. Right. So so I've wanted Hogan to run, ever since he left office. So I'm glad that he decided to throw his hat in the ring. And if he's aspiring to higher office, I think this is the better way to do it, is to run for Senate, hopefully win, and then he can go ahead and do whatever. Even though I don't think he's electable on a national level, but he'll be in the conversation potentially as a result of that. But yeah, he would be Larry Hogan would be a major story if he won in Maryland. It would just be,
Right.
it would just rock the boat so much to see him do that. So, and I've not had anything. I know I wasn't crazy about all the things that Hogan did as governor, but I also understood the landscape in Maryland, and said this is how you do it. He's the kind his way he operated was the way you get a Republican elected statewide in Maryland.
Right.
And so I'm sorry, MAGA Republicans, but that is the absolute truth right now. The way Maryland is set up is that you've got to be a more Hogan type in order to win statewide. In a district, it can be different. Andy Harris has got his district, he's fine,
right.
But I mean, they basically have tried to cull all the conservatives, on the Eastern Shore. They try to basically push everything to his district, so they can try to take the other ones when they can. Though,
right. Here's the other thing that I want to ask about Maryland, though, because okay, you have a shorthand, right? We everybody knows that, but they basically let them take the Roscoe Bartlett seat. Right. They basically let the Democrats gerrymander that seat to where no Republican could win it. So, when we do that to them, they go to court and they win, right? Because we gone to court, we've lifted a finger to do anything about it. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Right. We're just like, oops, we did it again. It's like the most gerrymandered state in the union is Maryland. Right. Nobody's worse than them, and then no one does anything about it.
Yeah, Hogan did challenge the 3rd district map, and they did get some. They did have some success with that, I think, and because it was so bad, it became one of the worst ones in the country. But
he let 8 go, and he let 6 go, right? And those were winnable.
Yeah, and this is one of the things is that in 2010 when I ran for state senate, reluctantly ran for state senate. One of the things I was telling people. I participated in a little debate thing where my opponent actually didn't come to that one, but we were actually in the I don't even remember, it was a Catholic church that's right at the intersection of Norbeck and Muncaster Mill Road. So it's a very large, it's a good sized church there, but they were holding a little debate, and they invited all Republicans, Democrats running in District 19 over there. And I was just saying, look, for Republicans, it's important to get a Republican elected as governor, as well, because of they have because of the input they have on maps,
Right.
And that's we're talking 2010, that was a census year, right?
Right.
So the governor at least has some influence there going forward that sets the tone for the next 10 years, and now he's supposed to deal with the legislature and wrangle with them. But you've got to have those people in the right places to be able to try to make some headway, because I mean the Democrats they rule Maryland and they make it hard. I think Hogan tried to fight back on some things, but you can override any veto, I guess, if he would have of maps and come to some agreement. But I mean, I think it's a viable point if people really want quote free and fair elections and they don't want the gerrymandering. Look at your local races. Look at the races for your state senate, your state house, and your governor, and say, these people are the ones that are controlling that lever. If you want Republicans to have those controls and to be able to set the map, then that's what you got to do. But if you're okay with the Democrats doing it, well, then that's fine. Go ahead. We'll wait and see what happens. Hogan is going to make he's making this this year more interesting by the fact that for Marylanders, for Republicans in Maryland, it's like, oh look, we know that Trump is only going to get X amount of votes there, but Hogan is someone they can fight for, and maybe Trump has some coattails and benefits Hogan too. Who knows? Even though their relationship is great, I think they can patch some things up to help each other along the way. So the Senate passed a foreign aid bill without really the border security provisions in there. Schumer's basically telling the House they need to pass that, but I don't see it getting through the House.
The speaker has said he's not going to bring it to the floor, which will make it difficult.
Yeah,
he's under no pressure to either. They passed HR 2. The Senate hasn't taken that up, So why don't we just go back to HR2? You guys deal with that. Call us when you're done, right? Because they're under no pressure. The book says at this point, let Biden figure this out for himself. If he really wants to fix the border, which he does not, he can do almost everything that needs to be done by executive order. That's how he messed it up, right? Trump fixed it by executive order. He broke it by renouncing all Trump's orders, and he can just put Trump's orders back in place. You have to admit you were wrong and that Trump was right about how to control the border. But, at this point, they got to try something, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, who's got the most feeling the most pressure? Democrats, right, on the border.
Yeah.
I mean, right. They're
desperately trying to, you own the border now because you didn't vote for our terrible bill before.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, no, we don't own the border, and your bill was terrible. You can't. You're asking us to vote for stuff that our constituents explicitly do not want us to vote for. So, you're not being reasonable either.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can always say, look, we're for border security. I mean, this is the kind of security we want. We've laid this out. You're
right.
giving
and not a bill that hires more administrative law judges and bureaucrats to process the asylum applications. What they're trying to do is make it quicker and more efficient to get illegal immigrants into the country. That's not what we're interested in. What we're interested in is keeping them out of the country, right? And so, like, you make a bill that does not address what we want, and then you're like, oh, they won't vote on our bill. Well, your bill's not what we want.
Yeah, and the Democrats, I mean, because we've talked about this a little bit before, because, I mean, New York, Chicago, now Denver, I mean, cities that are, just straining from from all the illegals that have been shipped by Governor Abbott up there, just to kind of make them say, hey, we're gonna let you share our pain, and here they are, and they're bursting because they didn't see the expenses and everything else that are coming with it, plus all the trouble. I mean, we had some trouble with some of these illegals and police in New York, and things. So they're not just innocent people either, all the way through, right?
Right. That's right.
So yeah,
cultural enrichers, internet calls them.
Yeah, I think
but I mean, you have a situation where the Democrats are stuck here because the people who live in cities, generally cities is good for the Democrats, right? But now you have cities being destroyed by policies that Democrats cannot deny are theirs. And it's like, please help us. Oh, we can help you. Equity and whatnot, and welcome these guys in. Let them live in your house. Right? That's really actually what they're saying. They've just kind of abandoned the notion of solving the problem. And the people in the cities are like, hey, what we signed up for. So, you have, Trump. I think Biden is down to like 57% of the black vote, 60%, somewhere around there, which sounds like a lot, but it was like 89 last time. So 89 to 60, you can't win. The thing about those votes is they're in places where that hurts you most, right? Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, all those states that were razor thin close, North Carolina last time, large black voting population. So, if you cannot figure this out to their satisfaction, they may stay home. They may not vote for Trump, but they're not going to vote for Biden.
Yeah. Well, as I'm thinking about some of these cities that have been, have had a lot of publicity because they're complaining. We have, they have Democrat mayors, though in Denver, I guess the mayor is a Democrat, but it's officially a nonpartisan office. But I'm thinking about San Francisco. I kind of wonder, it's like, I haven't heard anything about shipping to San Francisco, but I kind of wonder, if Greg Abbott says, San Francisco's already got enough problems, we don't need to dump on them more.
Well, I mean, they get some because they get, all the sanctuary cities get some,
Right, and that's part of the thing too, right? It's like they declare themselves sanctuary cities, thinking that this is an all high and mighty, and we're open to everybody. And we're doing these things. We're like, okay, fine, you're sanctuary city. Go ahead and take some of these people and help us out here, because that's basically what you're saying, right? Our doors are open for that, and now you're saying, no, we don't want any more. Quit sending them to us. We can't handle it. It's like, but I thought you were a sanctuary city. It's like, well, we didn't quite expect this.
And then a lot of these people who, may or may not have been criminals or mental patients or whatever in their own countries, are now making trouble here, right? So, which further hurts the Biden administration. You're trying to get people to accept these guys, and they're, like you say, beating up cops, beating up people on the street, raping women. It's not all of them. It's not even a big percentage of them, but it's your, you need to be almost perfect here, and they're not close.
Right. Exactly. I mean, the thing is that stories like that will make news, and that's not the news you want them to portray, right? Even if it's 0.1% of the entire group coming in, the perception is still what's out there for people. And,
right.
if you're attacking cops, that's a no-go. I mean, that's like that.
Right.
That's we
can't, all agree on that. We all agree. Beating up cops in the street, we're not going for that. We don't do that here.
Yeah, you can't do that. So it creates a bigger headache for the Biden administration on this. So yeah, we're here in middle of February. We've got an election in less than 9 months. I don't see how Biden gets like you said, except by executive order, how he's going to get any real border or anything done between now and November. It'll be the next administration, probably Trump, or at least hopefully Trump's administration, that comes in and tries to fix all that and does what we need to do. But he's going to also need to make sure they get, they've got Congress, with them on that. And that's, we're kind of dicey at this stage, but we're 9 months out. We'll see how some more things shake out for that. The House did by one vote.
I would say before we go on that, one of the things that's getting overlooked is congressional majorities, right? We have a very good chance of picking up the Senate. The Democrat is almost certainly going to lose in West Virginia. Your buddy Alex Mooney, he's in trouble against the governor, but whichever one of them emerges will be the one. Like Hogan could win Maryland. Cruz is now 8 or 10 points ahead in Texas. They're not going to pick that up. There's a couple other really Sherrod Brown in Ohio that are really vulnerable, really in bad electoral climate for them, unpopular president.
Arizona,
right? That's right. Cinema, that's right. That could well end up in Republican hands.
Yeah,
especially if they can't get either her or Ruben Gallego out of the race, right? And right. Ruben Gallego's made enough inroads now that it probably won't be him, right? But it could be Cinema. She's having some fundraising issues, and someone may be able to persuade her to do something else for a living.
Yeah, I mean, Cinema has not done any fundraising, but she's got money in the bank from her other campaign. So
right. So she's not done yet, but if they don't sort that out, then Lake probably does win. So that would be a very pro-Trump senator from Arizona on his side, like more pro-Trump than J.D. Vance, which would be saying something.
Yeah.
So the House is winnable, right? You have it now, and a lot of those districts are the Republican has the upper hand, is the better known, better financed candidate. But we were outspent. Republicans were outspent about 3.5 to 1 in the 2022 midterms, right? And so that's why it is huge news that Trump has forced out Ronna McDaniel, right? Because you cannot fail at every campaign cycle to that degree. 3.5 times, the funding. Your opponent has 3.5 times the funding. All those Senate candidates. Remember, they sat around and blamed Trump for Blake Masters and Oz and Herschel Walker and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, all those guys were Trump endorsed, but they were all out financed, outspent 8, 9, 10 to 1. So it's hard to win like that, especially close races. So, the party itself, the RNC, is changing hands is a huge positive if they have that. Okay. I'm glad Charlton asked that. To me, almost no possibility that it won't be Joe. If Joe dies or spins completely out of control, what happened this week was not, not good for that. He took got much closer to, needing to be deposed one way or the other. The problem with deposing Joe is in most cases, you passed a lot of filing deadlines for primaries, and some primaries have already been held. And, if you replace Joe, the only person you can replace him with by law in most of those places is the vice president, which is Harris. And Trump is up about 6-8 points now nationally on Biden, right? But he's up about 17 or 18 on Harris. So the Democrats don't want to. That could be literally 420 electoral votes. So that they won't go to Harris, and they really can't go to anyone else. And really, who would they put up? Like, I can write your commercials against Gavin Newsom. Whitmer, she's involved in some kind of fake kidnapping plot. There's who's viable on that side, right? It's a really weak bench at this point.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's obviously lots of questions about Biden and his competency and everything like that, but the Democrats are stuck.
Yeah, they're stuck in a huge way, and they have the two fights: immigration, which they can't win because the cities, if you let everybody in, you make you make the progressives happy, but the people in the cities are miserable, and if you stop it, the progressives work against you. Same with global warming, right? If they don't keep the pedal to the metal on that, they lose all the progressive support, which they've done because they've had to pull back because it's hurting the economy so bad. And the other fight is the Israel Gaza is the Gaza fight, right? If it's an 80% issue, and Biden is forced by the extremist radical leftist in his party to go on the 20 side. He can't be on the 80 side. Like, what do you do?
Right. And Abbott, by sending these people out to these various cities, has just kind of focused for these cities on what the problem here is that he's saying this is not a Texas problem, or this is not a New Mexico problem, or any border state or whatever. This is a nationwide problem. This is America's problem, and somebody's got to fix it. And the Democrats aren't doing it. And now even the Democrats, when they're seeing it, when it's happening in their own cities, because they're getting a flood of these people, thanks to Governor Abbott, that all of a sudden, there's a change of tune. So I do think that there's a potential there for some things to kind of trickle down, right? I mean, it's not just the mayors of these cities and the governors of these states, but I think the voters out there may be like, wait a minute, we're seeing the effect of this immigration problem in our backyard, which we've never seen before. We now have a better understanding of this, and the people who are running the country are not the ones that can fix this problem.
Right? They let us down.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, I definitely think the Senate, because is winnable because of the situations that you described. The House, I think some of this is really going to rely on Trump coattails or something like that to help carry the down ballot candidates through that. Right. A lot of congressional races, we come to every 2 years. There's some pretty close races. Trump can make a huge difference in a lot of it, enough to secure a bigger majority than they have today, if it all goes well. And
also, I think there's 8 Republicans retiring, and all but one of them, only one of them is MAGA. All the rest are, Ken Buck, all these guys. So it's getting to be more MAGA. That it will, the next class will be more MAGA.
Right. And, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Trump, once he is the nominee, he can really pivot to that and say, hey, I'm going to need majorities to do what truly needs to be done here. And I think he can really rally a lot of people, but you need that party infrastructure to be lined up behind this in a way that it wasn't until now.
Yeah. And you have to have things like where Wisconsin, where they're going to try to redraw the map, not redraw the map for this election. But they're making a big push to that because they won the Supreme Court seat that they needed to turn the court to the liberal side, and that's part of their agenda is to change the map. So there are some underlying currents with things like that where liberals are trying to do things like that. We'll see how this all shakes out.
Judge has some problems too. So there's some attempts to remove that judge going on and stuff. So. There's a long way to go there in Wisconsin.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was funny when I saw wasn't there a meme going around there that the Packers have only won Super Bowls with Republican governors or something.
Oh, is that right? That's a good one.
It was pretty good. I thought, oh, this is kind of clever. Think about that, Packer fans, voters,
and stockholders.
So what about Biden? I mean, we had this HER report, which was pretty damning, to his cognitive ability. It's like, the elderly man who's got some memory problems, can't remember when he was really vice president, and some other things.
We're not charging him because he is not mentally capable of assisting.
Right.
Running the country, but can't stand up for this trial.
Give the old man a break of that way. But
when you didn't do that, when you made up laws to prosecute Trump, right, for documenters, and Trump can argue that as president he can declassify anything he wants, any way he wants, and take whatever he wants with it. Biden wasn't president, right? What Biden did, it was just having those documents outside the secure area was illegal. Right.
Yeah. So one of the things that gets me about this is that, so then, he fires back, trying to defend himself with this. And then when I first heard this thing, I'm like, what the heck did he just say? He talked to Mexican President Sisi. It's like, what is he? And all this. But I mean, coming on the heels of the other things, with France and with Germany and the floods that he's had there, with people have been dead for decades, and you're like, I don't what is going on here. It's like, how does that, and then you have Democrat reps, people out there saying, like, he's like the sharpest person I've ever met. And was it Jill Biden that said he gets more done in an hour than most people get done in a day?
It's like, come on, man. I mean, he doesn't. It's good because he doesn't work very many hours. Right. I mean, he's almost like he had no public events this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Like, and I know when you say you don't have a public event, that doesn't mean they're not working. Right. Yeah. But this is a guy that's like, he's been on vacation more than 40% of his term. He takes a lot of vacation time. And I think it's because they have to hide him. They can't put him in front of reporters. They have the bunny chasing him around. No, don't talk to that reporter. Right. They've realized that they can't let him be exposed, and they have to do whatever they can to stop it.
But I mean, I can just only imagine his staffers and the campaign people, their reaction as soon as he said that he had met with Mexican President Sisi, in a press conference where he was defending his ability, his mental acuity, and everything like this, and all this stuff, and he has that gaffe, and you're like, okay, did you just not reinforce what her had said in that, and just because the other gaffes that occurred so recently too, just like, they're adding up in a short period of time when his mental ability is being questioned. It's like, this is not a good look, for them at all.
And world leaders who are thinking about, attacking Taiwan or closing out their conquest of Ukraine or building a nuclear bomb in Iran. I mean, they don't look at us as a country able to stop them from doing this right now, right? They look at us as a country, led by a doddering old fool who doesn't know what to do. I mean, Putin started walking all over Biden literally within 3 weeks of him taking office. Putin sized him up and said, this is easy, and just started taking advantage.
Yeah, and Kamala says she's ready to serve. Is that supposed to reassure us?
Right, that's right. Before the report came out. So she probably knew it was in the report. The first time someone wrote the other day, first time Kamala's ever been able to predict the future about anything.
It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, if that isn't frightening for Democrats as well, it's like she's ready to serve. That really wasn't our intention after watching her for the last 3 years.
At all.
Yeah, and was this true though that they're saying that Biden is not going to take a cognitive test on his next physical?
That's right. He said he would not do it, and he's also trying to block release of the transcripts of his interview with her and his staff. Right. So, they obviously know that they messed up here, and they're trying to hide it. But I think the fight for those recordings, even if they lose, even if the Republicans lose, the point is made. I mean, they're fighting really hard to keep you American people from hearing, how doddering Joe is, how bad off he is. Right.
Right.
There's nothing they can do. They can either put out the tapes and live with what happens, or they can, be criticized for hiding it right up till Election Day.
Yeah. I mean, how do you deny the difference between Joe Biden 2021 and Joe Biden 2024? There's a stark difference.
Right. But no, the trick here, though, is to not go overboard with this, because, that's not really the reason not to elect Joe Biden president. Right. Again, it's part of it, but it's not all of it. And last time, it was all this talk at this point in the deal about, he can barely form a sentence and how old and addled he is. And then he gets out there in the first debate. He didn't really win the debate, but he did not spit all over himself. He did not stumble off the stage. He did not forget his name and whatnot. Right. He debated. Like, you think, say what you want about what he said, but he stood up to it. Right. And then we're like, okay, that was a lie. It's cognitive dissonance. They told me something that did not square with what I saw on my screen. This time, I'm not sure Biden is as able to pull off what he pulled off in that debate as he did this time. And we need to our criticism of this needs to be measured, and it needs to be referred to, unarguable, impregnable sources such as the special counsel's report.
Yeah. But I think I'm willing to wait till a debate between Trump and Biden to see what's going on here. So
yeah, I don't think you're going to. I think you're going to be waiting a long time for that one, my friend. I don't think that was going to happen in this year.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up.
Let's see a couple of things here. Secretary of Defense back in the hospital. I think he's seriously ill this time, so prayers for him. House votes to impeach Mayorkas. I thought that we probably dodged a bullet when they fell just short the first time. I don't know what we get out of this, and it's over policy differences. It's not really how impeachment's supposed to be used. So, good luck, but I don't think you're going to get much on it. Let's see. The shrinkflation. You're talking about dumb things Biden did to himself, self-inflicted wounds. So, he gets down there. He won't do this traditional Super Bowl softball interview because, he's afraid that he will, spit all over the machine or whatever. But he then comes on with this commercial complaining about shrinkflation, which is all his fault. So, I don't know, like, are they trying to throw this to Trump or whatever? Inflation is going back up. Price of gas is going back up. It turns out, canceling all the LNG does have some impact out there. I really don't care if they sing the Black National Anthem. Right. I am studiously aware of when the game actually starts, and I don't watch anything that comes on before. And of course, the happiest news today is that pitchers and catchers report.
Yep. Can you? I'm just going to, before we close, I'm going to say, can you imagine what it's like for Dodger training camp and spring training? That they'll sell every ticket to any spring game this way, and they can charge whatever they want to watch those guys.
That's right.
Yeah. So that would be an amazing thing. So anyway, thanks everyone for joining us today. Please, as always, stay safe and stay well. Remember, we live in the greatest country in the world. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. And as always, God bless America, and we will see you again next week.